If you want to run OPENCV on Android devices, there are many ways to do so. Some methods are easier to use, but you must know their limitations so that you don't end up choosing an OPENCV method that blocks your project. This video is the second in a series of videos where I discuss methods to implement OPENCV on Android so that you can choose one that works best for you. I will show you how to use Kivy Python and OPENCV to load image files on an Android phone and send the image file as a NumPy array to a server. Here is a simple diagram. Our Android Python code does two things. It reads an image file from the phone's external storage and sends the image file as a NumPy array via HTTP post to a REST API. The server receives the NumPy array, which it can then use in machine learning or image processing. We're using Kivy Python for an Android app. The Android code calls Python code on the server side using HTTP requests to a Flask REST API. I'll also share the server-side Python Flask code. Let's dive straight into the Kivy Python code on Android. But if you want the full context, I've left links in the description below for videos on the Kivy GUI and Android permissions. So first things first, we're going to do the necessary imports. We need OPENCV, that's CV2. And then let's proceed to the method of interest, that's grab_sender_img. If you want to know how the method grab_sender_img ties to the Kivy GUI, I've left a link in the description below. Please follow that video. Likewise, if you want to understand how the Android permissions are set up, I've left a link to the video in the description. But here we're just going to concentrate on how to use OPENCV to open an image file in PNG format and then send it over to the server side using HTTP post. So we're going to generate a NumPy array from the image loaded by OPENCV and send that NumPy array over HTTP post to the server. So the image path is obtained from the environment variable external storage. If you want to know how environment variables are accessed, there is a video in my channel. And then the image file is more_digits_plot_png. So I've manually placed that PNG file in that external storage directory, which is the DCIM directory in the Android device, just for the sake of this video. And we're going to run this whole Android device in an Android Studio emulation. Let's also construct a params JSON object with some helpful information, the image file name, which is more_digits_plot_png, and the image file size, which is the size of the file stored in the Android file system. Let's set up the URL. Again, I'm not going to go into the details of the actual HTTP connection setup, the client and the connection setup and the parameters. There is a separate video. I've left a link to that video in the description. So let's set up a variable text_to_return as where we will store the return value from the response. Once we do the HTTP post request, we captured the response object and we stored the message returned by the HTTP REST server in that variable. So the content type is JSON. And let us set up a variable data_to_send, which has the actual image bytes attributed by the JSON key ARR, which is short for array, and the parameters, which is keyed by params. Again, the parameters are not strictly necessary, but helpful information. I have decoded the image bytes using the ISO 88591 codec In your case, it might vary, so please be sure to use the right codec to decode your bytes before you place those bytes as payload in your JSON. So now we set up a response object, and we send the data underscore to underscore send object through that session to our server. And if the response status code is 200 or 201, which indicates success, then we're gonna set up another variable, request underscore succeeded as true. Oh, I do realize that that variable was not set, so let's go ahead and set that variable first. So this variable would be like a member of the class itself. Now we're going to set the img underscore size underscore label attribute with the value that was sent in the response object from the server side, plus a couple of other things like the file name with the file path, and the shape of the array, the shape of the NumPy array that was generated when OPENCV loaded that PNG file. This is just helpful information, and we're going to send this information over to the Kivy GUI to be displayed as a label. So that label is indicated by img underscore size underscore label. I've created a separate video on the Kivy GUI aspect, so I'm not going to cover details of that. Again, I've posted a link to that video in the description. That video can help you understand the linkage between img underscore size underscore label attribute here and the Kivy GUI, and some print statements so that we can observe the output of the HTTP post response in our debug logs when we run the Android app in Android Studio. Let's catch some exceptions in case something goes wrong with the HTTP request. Again, we're gonna display some of the error information on the GUI itself. So we're gonna send the value, pass the value to img underscore size underscore label. Some typo fixes. I have to correct the URL name. Save it. Build the APK now. Let's look at the APK. Here it is. Now let's head to the server-side implementation.